Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the False Prophets podcast. I'm glad to be here, man. It's been a while. I know it's been a while. So many things have happened, right? So many things have happened. Jonathan Majors got found guilty.
A situation that I, in many ways, put myself in.
Mr. Reverend T.D. Jakes got swallowed up.
Swallowed up. Have you ever been swallowed up?
How is everybody else out there doing, I know I'm just shouting into the ether. You can't answer me back, but I want to know. I want to feel those vibes. So much has gone on, Me and Mr. Manny Perez are still on good terms, but he had to leave the pod. He had to leave the pod. I mean, obviously, you guys know what's happening in Gaza right now and the whole Israel-Palestine thing. And I said, obviously it's tough for anyone who is Israeli or anyone who is Palestinian on either side. But the one thing we can agree on is a ceasefire for both sides. And he vehemently disagreed. And he said, and I quote, he said, I support neither Israel or Palestine because I hate both my landlord and my local bodega owner. And I get that. I do understand it. I feel like for people who hate both their landlord and the guy at the bodega, this is actually the best time you could ever be having, right? You can be 2 weeks late on rent. He's preoccupied. You can steal Snickers. That guy's staring at Newsmax. He has no idea what's happening, So, I mean, shout out to all the haters of both sides there, and shout out to the supporters, who want things to end as I do. Because I do. YouTube, please remember that. I want both sides to find peace and find love. This is a hell of a way to start a podcast. Am I right? This is a hell of a way to start a podcast. There's quite a few things I wanted to talk about, and now that Manny is gone and I am now a enemy of the Latino community, I figured that it would behoove me to talk about the recent migrant crisis happening right here in good old New York City. I mean, there's a lot of things going on. I don't know if you guys heard, but 50 Cent recently tweeted out that maybe Trump was right. And basically 50 Cent was saying that because he was referring to Eric Adams' new thing of his new policy or new program of $53 million, I believe, in prepaid credit cards to migrant workers and just migrant people and families and all that stuff. And 50 Cent was quite angry about it. He's pretty salty about that. And you know what? It's messed up, but I gotta say, I do love 50 Cent because 50 Cent is one of those few people who has smoke for everybody. You know what I mean? Like usually, especially when it comes to rappers, they only have smoke for other rappers, but 50 Cent is an equal opportunity hater. And that's rare to see. That is very rare to see in this day and age. He got smoke for Madonna. He got smoke for migrants. He has smoke for any black person who he's ever had a mildly negative interaction with. That's a lot. And, you got to be happy about that, All I'm saying is it's not racist if you hate everybody. And I feel like he hates everybody. And, as far as the whole migrant thing goes, man, I mean, it's a tough issue. It's a tough issue. It's hard. I honestly, personally think, we don't have enough room, especially not in New York City. Listen, America's a big place. America's a big place. There's plenty of places in the Midwest that a lot of people could be living. There's plenty of places even farther out west. I mean, who's living in Boise, Idaho? Have you ever thought about that? Who's living in, Tuscaloosa, Oklahoma, right? Right? I even heard Topeka, Kansas is openly asking for migrants to come. This is what needs to happen. Okay? This is what needs to happen. I don't mind people coming in here, into the country. I would prefer it to be legal. I very much would. And we can talk deeper about that. I think it's just necessary. I mean, my family came from Jamaica, and as far as I know, they came here legally one by one. It took them a very long time. And when I say like immigrant family, it's like a real immigrant family, bro. Like my family's doing very well now, but it took them a long time to do very well. My grandma came here by herself, saved up enough money to get my uncle here. They saved enough money together to get my aunt here, and so on and so forth. I have about like altogether 8 aunt and uncles and stuff like that. We have a massive family. So to all the Latinos being like, you don't understand what it's like to have 10 people under one roof. Okay, nigga, I do. Okay. I grew up one of the few black families in a white suburban fucking town, and my grandma was the one who was the maid for all these fucking white people for years. I understand exactly what you're talking about. I'm the one who had a single mom and lived in my grandma's house and shit. You know what I mean? All that immigrant shit where it's just like if you live at, oh my God, if you have a grandma, if you have an immigrant family and you live at the grandma's house, it's hell. It's hell. I'm telling you, that's Ellis Island right there. Because everybody's coming in, asking for food, trying to hang out, slightly asking your mom or your grandma for money. You know what I mean? Talking to you, trying to out you as being high and shit. I remember Uncle Bobby, which is fucked up because you smoked mad weed. You know, I still remember that shit. So I know how this shit goes, man. I know how this shit goes. But I feel like, you know, it's unfair, man. I mean, I'm a profound socialist. I'm into socialism and everything, and redistribution of wealth and all that. And I think everybody should have universal health care, have a place to sleep, have food in their belly. But that is to legal residents. Okay, when you have illegal people who aren't contributing to the machine of what the country is, it can really hurt things. And I know there's going to be people who be like, they are contributing to what the country is, not through taxes though. And really the only thing they're contributing to is the rich getting richer by disenfranchising people who are actually working, who want a fair wage. You know what I mean? As a socialist and as somebody who cares about social programs and unions and stuff like that, you really can't have illegal people, because now that is, dividing the union. And the union can be of anybody of any racial, construct. Because I'm not just talking about Latinos. There's plenty of Africans right out there, who I do Uber with as well too. You know what I mean? Like, so it's a thing. It's a thing. There's black people doing it. There's Latino people doing it. It's a problem of both of us that I think needs to be very much figured out. But I will say the way the U.S. is getting to it is a little nuts. It's a little nuts. I don't know if you guys have seen the pictures as far as the Texas Rangers down south of the border. I mean, they're literally like lassoing people, whipping people. You see it in in these pictures of them on horseback and stuff, and they're getting these migrants, they're getting these immigrants who are sneaking in and everything. And it's just like, listen, okay. The end result of sending people back necessarily, depending on what they're doing, by getting in here illegally, like you send them back. I don't necessarily disagree. But to America right now, and more specifically Texas, but to America as a whole, can you make it a little less clan-y, a little less, hey, we're good at doing this because we have so much experience in doing this. Like there's something to it where I feel like, especially in Texas, where they're like, yo, like black people have finally found their own lives, segregation is done, and there's just been like white people who are racist, and they have like racist blue balls, and they're like, I need to hang something. I need to lasso something. I need to whip something. And this has been years and years and generations of racist blue balls building up. And then they hear these stories about these migrants, and they grab their AK-47 that they have like 8 of for whatever reason, and they pack it in their pickup truck, and they pack a lip, and they're like, it's time to roll out. It's not cool. It's not cool. I feel like there is a better way we could be doing this. I don't know the way. I'll be honest with you. I have no idea what the way is, but I feel like there is a much better way we could be doing this that is a little bit less Amistad-ish, a little bit less roots-ish, Is it too much to ask to treat somebody like a person, even if they did something wrong? Am I crazy? But it's messed up, man. It's messed up, but there's other people that advocate for the whole immigration thing, which I'm not totally against either. You know what I mean? I understand people want a new life. And also, too, if we didn't have immigrants here in New York City, then who would we have to do donuts on their moped outside of the Shake Shack in Times Square? I mean, that would be clearly a large missing demographic. And I get it. So, more power to everybody else. I just hope people are safe out there. I hope America has enough resources to feed all these people, to help all these people. And I hope that eventually they can start some program where these people can be legal, because they are severely impairing a lot of things in this country. And I don't think you're necessarily going to see it now, but in the next 20 to 50 years, I think we are really going to have a major problem. And it's not just going to be a problem of culture of like, he eats this and I eat that. It's just like, hey, no one has enough food. And, you know, the thing is, it's like, I think America, one thing I've learned about traveling the world, or at least traveling Europe, is America is the scapegoat for colonialism and like white racism, but it's not the only place that does it. So it's like you go over to Spain, you go over to Germany, you go over to all these places, their idea is like, oh, America is so racist. And it's like, dude, I'm in Germany. I just walked by a place that when I was in history class, I saw Hitler stand in front of. So you're not going to tell me, you know, like that you guys are good and we're the worst alternative. Same thing with England. It's like, dude, we learned it from you, you know. And I think a lot of these white countries have this kind of thought process of like, you know, because also, by the way, they're also all of our allies, so they're doing everything in, you know, we're doing everything in their self-interest as well too, and they're clearly benefiting from it, while they get to have their hands clean and pretend that their days of colonialism and pushing down the little guy is over. So we're in a weird world right now. We're in a weird world, and I always wonder. I'm like, you know, obviously people from Mexico, people from this place, that place, who want to come over here. Obviously, I want you to have a good life. I prefer if you came legally, but I understand that things can be tough, especially if you're some sort of refugee or something. But, you know, with people and their never-ending empathy about this stuff, it's like the buck has to stop somewhere. You know what I mean? Things have to stop somewhere, because at the same time, it's like, all right, so what happens when all these people come here, America goes into the shitter, and places like Mexico and South America are actually doing better? You think they're going to let us in? No, they're not. They're going to let the white people in. They're not going to let me in. Okay? And they're going to be having the same fucking question. You know? All I do is watch travel blogs all the time, you know, especially places in Asia, because I've always wanted to travel Asia and stuff like that. And a lot of, you know, we're seen as the ones being like racist of like, we don't have enough and these people are different cultures. But if you watch any of those travel blogs where they ask people on the street about the thought of immigration, because a lot of those places are so homogenous, especially like Asia is extremely homogenous. There really aren't that many different colored people there. So they're still in the mindset of how like white people were maybe like 60 years ago. You know what I mean? Where they're just like, they don't speak the language. They shouldn't be here and all that type of stuff. And I think, you know, it's fucked up. You shouldn't be like that, but it's also something that's understandable because it's realistic and it is slightly true. So I don't know, man. I don't know what we're going to be doing here. But all I got to say is 50 Cent's a bad boy. He's an honest boy, but he's a bad boy. Oh my gosh. There's so many things I want to talk about now that I'm back here with you guys. You know, number one, I was going to maybe wait a whole nother week to do another episode, but I had to come back. Because the plot has thickened in the Tory Lanez case. So apparently, DJ Academics has come and kind of blown this case wide open. Black 100 and other people have it on good authority that there is a tape of the entire shooting on his cell phone, and it completely exonerates Tory Lanez.
When the video come out that the DA tried to suppress, that my legal is now involved in, there will not be a no more Meg Thee Stallion.
Oh, shit.
Clip that.
The appeal is coming. When the video comes out from the little Asian girl that followed them from the time they saw him arguing in the car, that the DA tried to suppress and threaten their family with all kind of other shit, shout out to the private investigators. I want to see what the Meg Thee Stallion fans are going to say then.
Listen, the whole Tory thing, he got found guilty. I believe in believing in a court of law, and he got found guilty. So he's guilty. to me at this point. Unless I see something that breaks things wide open, he's guilty and it's done and it's over and there is no animosity. It doesn't even matter if there was animosity because I'm not famous and they are, but there is none from me right now. And I'm just saying that to put that out here. But this is an interesting thing, and you know, they're talking about this video and they haven't seen it, but other people have seen it, and and things get lost in the sauce. So I'm still calling bullshit. I don't think this thing is necessarily real, or that's what I thought. And apparently I was just watching one of Academics' other videos, and they went on to TMZ, I believe, and read an article about the development of this new tape. And basically the police department is saying that there is a new tape. So I don't necessarily know if the tape alleges everything that all these people have alleged, that they've seen the entire shooting and that it's clear as day that Kelsey did it and everything. I don't know that. He didn't even really say that, but that does mean that there is some truth to this thing and that there is a lot more to this story. I think we've all known that. There's so much to this story. It's such a deep plot. And I think nobody really knows the truth because all three of them were fucked up the whole time. I think nobody really knows what happened. So I'm interested to see what happens with this video. But that was just something I had to just bring back because once I saw that, I was like, I gotta go back to the YouTube. I gotta go back to the YouTube. I gotta give them something. I gotta get a homie something. And I'm glad I did, man. So we'll see how that develops, man. We'll see how that develops. But there's a couple other things I wanted to bring up. There is a recent, podcast interview with Lil Dicky. Some of you may know Lil Dicky from his show Dave on FX. Some of you may know Lil Dicky from his presence on YouTube. He just recently dropped the full official album, Penith. I'm going to say that with a straight face, Penith. And it's basically a bunch of snippets from the show plus added verses. He just recently dropped the music video for Ha Ha Ha, aka That's a Joke. If you know his show, you know the song. So he dropped that, and he recently was on Flagrant.
There was that stuff with Theo Vaughn. He was upset. Like, how do you deal with something like that?
I'm happy that you brought that up.
Theo Vaughn. He's one of those West Coast Joe Rogan umbrella guys. You know what I mean? I'm old. I know Theo Vaughn from like Real World and like Road Rules Challenge.
I'm Theo, Road Rules Season 9 Maximum Velocity Tour. I've been working as a tour manager and I've just been looking for girls.
I know him more from that than I do from actual stand-up comedy, but I can't deny the man is blowing up. And basically where him and Lil Dicky merge is Theo Vaughn was on the Barstool podcast.
That's probably stole it
People
from him.
steal all my shit. Lil Dicky,
Yeah,
everybody steals
maybe
my
Shane.
shit.
Have you
Lil
told
Dicky
that
steals
story?
your shit?
That
Have
show
you-
steals so many of my jokes.
He said that it's multiple things that they've taken from him, but he presented one thing especially, which was the wooden shirt. If you watch Dave, I believe it's season 2, they have an episode where Dave and Els, his like best friend who's a producer, it's actually played by Taco from Odd Future. His friend Els or whatever, they have to take care of Trippie Redd's like nephew or something, or like his little cousin or some shit like that. And they go to a fair and they see wooden shirts and they buy the kid a wooden shirt. Supposedly Theo Vaughn is saying that aspect was taken from him, and they even have receipts for it. There was an episode of Joe Rogan.
One time, this guy made his son a wooden shirt. Did I tell you that?
A wooden shirt.
Yeah, he made his son a shirt out of plywood for Christmas.
What?
Yeah.
You wanted the kid to wear it?
Oh, yeah, he did.
So this is a real thing. And one thing I will say is, I have a podcast with my boy Kyle Glenn. We were talking about Andrew Schultz and Theo Vaughn, actually. So this is funny how this corresponds. But I ended up saying certain things about Andrew and everything. And, aside from that, I will say, as far as interviewing and what he does on his show, he's good at what he does. I do respect him. I don't necessarily think he's the funniest, but I do respect him as a person, And I gotta say, he had Lil Dicky on and he grilled him as a comic, which is what you're supposed to do.
You guys both had a similar idea in the show, right?
Yeah.
Or he had it in something, and then you
said
had
it
it
on
I
a
guess.
podcast
He said it on
about
a
the
pod,
wooden
and then,
shirt thing.
Yeah, it was like a wooden shirt, and then you guys had it in the show.
he's, Andrew Schultz is a comedian. Theo Vaughn is a comedian. In a way, we have to protect our own or at least get the full story. And I'm proud of Andrew Schultz for doing that, which he held Lil Dicky's feet to the fire. He held Lil Dicky's to the fire and asked him about the whole thing. And apparently Lil Dicky was saying that he has no idea about this thing. And, things happen in the writer's room. And I think this is a interesting thing because I don't know how I feel. I'll be real with you. I wanted to have like a distinct decision, to tell you guys, but I honestly do not know how I feel about this thing because I'm one of those people where, I've always been raised as a comedian as like stealing jokes is wrong and stuff like that. But at the same time, if two people have similar premises, that's not that crazy to me. And I have, there's degrees to joke stealing. Like I know a lot of comics who think like if you have the same premise as them, you stole their joke, regardless of if you've ever been around them or not. Like that's how I think petty and I think kind of paranoid comics can be. And I'm not necessarily one of those people who agrees. I even think that you can see somebody have a similar premise, and as long as the premise is slightly off, you're both fine and just live your life. So the whole concept of the wooden shirt thing is a hard thing because it is a very distinct thing. It's like wooden shirt. It's like the average person doesn't think about that, but maybe they just brainstormed it and thought it'd be a funny fucking thing. You know what I mean? A wooden shirt, and just added it. And it just so happened that Theo Vaughn had talked about the wooden shirt thing, or maybe one of, Dave or Lil Dicky's writers watches Joe Rogan and saw that thing from years ago and was like, that'd be funny. Or maybe he saw the thing from years ago, didn't remember that he saw it, and he just popped up in his head, wooden shirt, and he put it down there. There's a million different things. So I don't necessarily think anybody's really in the wrong right now or anything, but I think it's just one of those interesting situations to kind of analyze and see like, what does it mean to have an original idea, especially now that we are drifting to this world of AI, which is essentially plagiarism technology. It's technology that scans the entire internet for the work of others and then creates its own answers or, its own assignments, based off of those past things that it's read. And even AI, is just a artificial version of us. It's artificial intelligence. It's an artificial version of our intelligence. And it's like, we all think of our ideas as original, but aren't we just doing what AI is doing at a slower pace? Every movie you've ever made, every movie you've ever seen isn't original. Every book you've ever read is not original, And, it all comes from different influences, and some people announce the influences and pay homage to that. Other people kind of don't, or may not even fully be aware of the influences until a message board brings it out. Who knows? But I don't necessarily know what's better or worse. I try to show love to the influences that I've had, because I've humbled myself in the realization that nothing is original in any sort of way. And I think if there are any artists watching this, stop trying to be so original and just put out whatever feels good to you. Because I think I've known a lot of great comedians get stuck, mentally blocked on the idea of originality. Let things flow through, man. And if somebody rolls up to you and is like, hey, bro, that's my joke, and they say the joke to you and both sound extremely similar and, you don't want to have it no more, throw it out. Be like, yo, my bad. I had no fucking idea. I had no idea, and do that. That's all it takes. I think a lot of these things that we deal with, right? All this controversy that we deal with all the time, not just celebrities, not just regular ass comedians struggling, but even regular people. I think everything gets catastrophized nowadays because of social media. So everything has to be a conflict, but most things can get solved fairly easily. Oh, I stole your joke. Well, I didn't really steal it because I didn't really know of it, but I'll stop it. My bad. Nigga, that's it. It doesn't need to be this whole thing, man. So I hope people stop taking themselves so seriously, all the time, constantly, all the time. But it's also one of those things where I think because we have such a smaller amount of human interaction that we used to, but we're constantly get thrown these virtual versions of interaction. I think it makes us a lot more sensitive. Our skin is not as thick as it used to be. And a lot of us are pussy and a lot of us are punks. And a lot of people also don't have any original ideas in any real way. Like, I know I said nothing's original, but there's some niggas who just are not original at all and just straight up steal. And I think that's going to become more prevalent too. So who the fuck knows where we're going? You know? Who knows what we are doing? But all I know is I'm going to keep doing this podcast, and there's a lot more good shit to come. I want to bring up some actual good news. Some good news that I think some of us who are real comedy fans will love. Shane Gillis just got tapped to host SNL. All right. Some of you guys may be wondering who Shane Gillis is. Shane Gillis is probably the next big comedian that you will see. The next Louis C.K. type, the next Dave Chappelle type, the next Bernie Mac, like one of those dudes. He's a white dude from Pennsylvania, came up in Philly. Hilarious. He grew up Republican. He's still a conservative guy, but he stands on his own. He stands on his business, and he says his jokes, and those jokes are hitting, bro. I can't even front. They're hitting, they're good, they're solid. He even takes one of my boys, a good friend of mine, Lemaire Lee, out on the road with him as well. He props up a good amount of black comics, which you'd be surprised by because, you know, thinking of his political leanings, but he's one of those dudes. He's one of those white dudes that's like, you ever know those like blue collar white dudes who are like racist, but they hang around black people and like actually know black people as people? He's like that, but famous. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I don't agree with all your views and shit like that. But at the same time, like, I fuck with you. And I fuck with your honesty and I fuck with your realism and the fact that you actually put yourself around people of color in a real way. But, you know, onto bigger things is some of you may or may not know that Shane was originally cast on SNL. This is years ago, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. Shane Gillis was cast on SNL. And before he even got to do his first performance, his casting got pulled and he was fired from the show because someone on the internet randomly found a audio clip about him on his podcast, you know, talking about Asian people.
I'm like, what are you guys doing here? Get these ducks out of that window.
You know what? Yeah, true. Also, I'm always like, how can there be so many fucking restaurants down here?
All rest. Well, because
you go in, there's like one person eating ever.
Fat white idiots like me are down there sucking down neuters.
It was taken out of context, but even taken out of context, it was still pretty rough. They got rid of him. They cut ties because that was also the first year that Boney Yang, who is one of their major cast members now, Boney Yang was also inducted into SNL that same year. So especially they had to get rid of him for then. But I think even if Bowen wasn't there, they still would have got rid of him. But the reason why I said that this is good news is because this is one of those things where, you know, he was a guy I think that was kind of on the outs for a while. And this probably as a person definitely hurt his psyche, you know, as an American, I think as a comedian as well, you want to make it to SNL. That's the Super Bowl, you know? So to get there and then have it taken away does a lot to you. But the fact that like he's been so good at stand-up that even though they fired him, they have to call him back. That is the good news. That's the thing that I want people to take away, because we talk a lot about cancel culture here, whether or not it's real and this, that, and the third. And it is real. It is real. But there is an aspect of it that's also not. I mean, there's certain people who do things that are so heinous and so awful that they can't ever really come back. Or if they do, you know, it's in some small club, or, you know, it's some low budget Tubi movie that'll never really see the light of day. You know, there's those people. You have the Kevin Spaceys, the Harvey Weinsteins and stuff like that. But for other people like Louis, or people like, you know, maybe like Dustin Hoffman, who got in trouble for being a little bit, you know, inappropriate with a woman, like way back in the 80s. People like Shane Gillis as well. It exists and it doesn't exist. What it really is their life from then on, from that incident, will be determined by what their reaction to people's collective public shaming of them will be. That's really what it is. And it's like, it's real in the sense that, yeah, a bunch of dates are going to get canceled. A bunch of people are going to hate you, but those people already didn't really like you. Those people already didn't really listen to your stuff. Those people already didn't really listen to your podcast or anything. Anyway, and a lot of them kind of wanted you to fail even before this happened. One of them was the one who found the thing on the internet and was searching for something to get rid of you for. You see what I'm saying? So if you keep the mental fortitude, and the stoicism of life and realize like, all right now, it's not cool to like me in any sort of way, but if I keep pushing, I keep working hard, I can break through. It will happen, especially if you already have a relatively big name. Shane, he had a huge podcast even when that happened. And I would say, as a conservative, I think it actually worked in his favor as a conservative guy. And I think if you asked him, I think he'd probably agree, because like, obviously you want to be on SNL, but right now we're in a different time in the world where like SNL doesn't really matter, dude. The only thing that really matters is your independence, you know what I mean? And having your own fan base. And while, this trophy or this badge that he would have liked to get is not something that he can get, it gave him a bunch of other trophies and a bunch of other badges. And I think it made it even better. Now he has, even before he was going to be a rising star, but now he doesn't have to do SNL rehearsals. So he just only focuses on stand-up, and he has an incredibly strong stand-up act, an incredibly strong stand-up career, an incredibly strong following. And I think that's so much better than a show that came up in the 70s that you'll be on for 5 years and you can kind of coast the rest of your career on it. Like, think about it. Like, you have people like Michael Che who, he's funny. He's a funny comic, but it's like, what has he really done? You know what I mean? Like, aside from being on SNL, like, what has he really done? I think that's another thing too. The Saturday Night Live specifically, I feel like it has this vibe sometimes where, comedians can kind of coast on it because that's their relevance. Like, you see people either be on it and skyrocket or be on it and kind of coast, and they're like, this will keep me relevant, and if I leave, I'll kind of disappear into obscurity. Like, even Pete Davidson, let's keep it a buck, bro. Like, he's popular, but the only thing that keeps him relevant is who he's fucking, not his comedy. He put up in that show Bupkis. It's like, who the fuck watched it? I didn't. I'm not saying that he's not a good comic, whatever. I actually don't. That's not true. I don't think he's funny, but it's my podcast. I'll be real. Who gives a shit? But like, now that he's not on SNL, it's like, and he's not fucking Kim Kardashian, where is he going to go? What is the meaning of all those things? What is his career going to mean? All it takes is one or two more flops, and people are going to stop checking for him as much, and that theater is going to get a lot more empty, and he's going to be downgraded to regular comedy clubs, and 10 years from now after that, it's going to be smaller comedy clubs, and, he'll go the way of Joe Piscopo. What the fuck is that guy doing right now? So these are the things that I think people need to realize, and I think Shane got really, really lucky. That being said, Shane, he is a conservative guy, but he's also like a hip kind of conservative guy, which, like I said, like, he hangs out with like fucking black people and sees people as human beings, which a lot of incel, weird, neoconservative guys are not like. And I think the whole Asian comment thing probably gave him a surgence, a big wave of those guys. So that's a little tough, I think, in certain realms for him. But who the fuck knows? I don't know, man. This cancel culture shit is just, it's insane. It's really insane. And it comes for everybody. I think it's just one of those things that you have to kind of just ride the wave out. Ride the wave out and don't stop your level of consistency in the artistry that you're making. It comes for everybody. Like, even Ayo Idabiri, you guys may know her as playing the sous chef, or I don't know the girl's name, on The Bear, right, with Jeremy Allen White. That's a huge show right now. She's a comedian. She does stand-up. She does some improv. She was in a movie called Theater Camp that I heard was pretty good. She's like the sweet, nice black girl. They're trying to get her. She's going to host SNL, I think, this coming week. And somebody put out a little thing about her comments on some podcast about Jennifer Lopez, who's gonna be the musical guest.
She thinks she's on multiple tracks, but it's not her. Like, it will literally be Ashanti or Christina Milian or like another girl who sounds like her. Like, it's other people.
But is she collecting the royalties?
Yes.
Once they start attacking even the nice people and the good people, I think that's when you have to start realizing that it's all bullshit, man. And you can't really buy into all these things that people put right in front of you. Our world right now with the whole social media and constant videos and everything, it's all about hot takes. It's all about outrage. It's all about surprising you. It's all about keeping your eyeballs on the screen. And once you realize that their thing isn't to actually inform you, their objective is to keep you watching, then you realize that it's all bullshit, and your shackles start to loosen a little bit. You start to get a little bit more informed and a little bit more understanding. So, guys, just remember, don't believe everything you hear. Don't believe everything you see. Believe me, your host of the False Prophets podcast. This has been False Prophets. We'll see you later. Peace.